fans of all music, hard and heavy. Welcome back to Wheels of Mercury. I'm Calvin, and in this video I'm going to talk about the hard rock and metal albums and EPs that I loved in the fall or the autumn, if you want to call it, of 2021. Now, I'm not going to waste any more time, so hit that thumbs up button and let's get straight into it. Starting with Rain Chamber by Sadness, released on September 9th, 2021. This is a 33-minute, 3-track EP by the extremely prolific Black Days and atmospheric black metal project that is the brainchild of Illinois-based and Mexican-born musician Damian Anton Olleta. This project actually started when he was just 17 years old back in 2014. And since then, he's uploaded loads and loads of music onto that Bandcamp page. And he's amassed an online cult following too. His most popular release is 2019's I Want to Be There. If you were around the metal tag on Bandcamp at that time, you probably might have seen that album cover near the top selling releases. Anyways, if you haven't heard Sadness yet, it's basically like a lo-fi version of Sunbather era Death Heaven with some depressive black metal undertones to it. Now, on Rain Chamber, Damian flirts with electronics and keyboards, most notably on the self-titled middle track, where it almost has this sort of dance or house music vibe to it. I'm going to make a very stretchy comparison here, okay? This actually reminds me of a trance interlude off of Asking Alexandria's first album, Stand Up and Scream, just in the way the keyboard melody feels and how it matches up to the beat and whatnot. However, it was the first and the last tracks of Sadness EP that really captivated me. The former track is named A Capture of Pink's Dream Moment Spike, and it is one of the best songs I have heard all year in any genre of music. 15.5 minutes of pure bliss breezes by with an incredible keyboard melody as its centerpiece. The part near the end of the song where it just explodes into clean singing is done so masterfully that I honestly end up experiencing euphoria from it. I cannot say enough great things about that track. It's just beautiful music all around, in my opinion. And the last song is very stellar as well. It is called Pre-Garden Mayflowers. The keyboard intro is bouncy. It's almost got a Caribbean feel to it. And then the rest of the song just outdoes itself in the atmosphere department time and time again until the triumphant finale around the 8th minute, all the way to its very end at almost 10.5 minutes in length. It is a very cinematic experience that is a fitting end to this EP. If you've never really dived into the vast discography of Sadness, this release would be a great place to start. Highly, highly recommend it. Next up is Torn Arteries by Carcass, released on September 17th. The 7th studio album from these absolute legends of UK-based death metal and grindcore is a fun listen. These guys have a whole rock and roll swagger going on in their current and classic brand of melodic death metal that other much younger bands in that same sort of lane fail to match. The tongue-in-cheek song titles like Eleanor Rigor Mortis and Flesh-Ripping Sonic Torment Limited are hilarious for those who have that dark, morbid sense of humor influenced by watching too many horror movies, if you get my drift. The guitar riffs are very tight and precise, remind me a lot of a death metal version of early Van Halen. They even brought back the blast beats from the early grindcore days on a few tracks as well. And there's nothing wrong with throwing a bone to those diehard original fans that like that We Could Putrefaction record from like 1989 or whatever. It's an insanely fun album by one of the most influential bands of all time in extreme metal music. If you perchance haven't heard of Carcass, you should give this thing a listen. It's a very fun time. I promise you'll enjoy it. Next up is Horizon/East by Dwight, also released on September 17th, 2021. The latest album from the veteran California hard rock and post-hardcore band is radio rock that is a cut above most bands in that they are not afraid to get a little artsy with their instrumental palette and their lyrics. The opening track, The Color of the Sky, has this looping synth melody playing throughout that is very beautiful, and vocalist Justin Hemsworth's scribble delivery is very endearing to my ears. Elsewhere tracks like Northern Lights, Robot, Soft Exorcism are interesting experiments with texture and fit the subject matter perfectly. The latter quite actually reminds me of Tool in a verses actually. And for those who missed the throat-shutting screams of Dwight's early 2000s hardcore days, they put him in a couple songs here and there too. This is a very well thought out, very well written and mature hard rock record that you should check out if you want something that's accessible with nuance, or if you're a metalhead like me looking for a palate cleanse after getting tired of the same old stuff. It's a great record and probably my rock album of the year, but we'll see about that when I post the video in January. Next up is This Place Will Become Your Tomb by Sleep Token, released on September 24th. Now, I had mentioned this album offhand before on my channel in a rant video that I did criticizing a certain metal reviewer here on YouTube for a craftily done review of it. For all of you who found my channel through that video, and there was a lot of views, that was the most viewed video I ever had on my channel. It was like 400 views. It was insane. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you. Now, if you watch the video, you're probably curious to hear what I think of the new Sleep Token album. Well, it's one of the best LPs I've heard in 2021 in my opinion. Part of my judgment had to do with the fact that, yes, I am a huge fan of that band, so there is bias here. But the other part of that equation is due to me being very open-minded and accepting a profusion of art pop, metal, rock, and just about any other alternative genre you can think of that have been popular over the past 10 years or so. I heard someone say once that Sleep Token resembled what would happen if The Weeknd was the lead singer for Deftones. And that's just right about on the money as far as the comparisons go. They don't just play preset genres, they experiment. They aim for an experience. There are songs on here like Hypnosis and Alkaline that are driving and emotional. There are also tracks like Descending and Fall For Me that are very electronic and pop influenced. The latest of those two boasts a clear Imogen Heap influence. There is even a bluesy guitar solo on the penultimate track, Telomeres, which is a first for that band, because they've never done guitar solos up until that point. All of these songs make me think, you know what, who gives a crap what the Sleep Token members' identities are? I'd rather not know who the person is behind the lead singer Vessel either. Seeing that the rumors circulating around the members' identities allegedly point to a couple small British indie projects and not huge artists like James Arthur or Sam Smith is enough to make me back the point up. We, the fans, don't care who is in Sleep Token, okay? We're just here for the ride. And if you find yourself listening to this album, well, I hope you enjoy that ride too. From here we go on over to October. Now, I was awaiting the new Asking Alexandria album, See What's on the Inside. I'm an enormous fan of that band. Unfortunately, that album turned out to be way too mediocre and middle below to even talk about that. So instead, I'm going to highlight the debut album from American folk-infused black metal group Northam called Illusions in the Wake, released on October 15th. These guys have actually existed all the way back in 2003. They managed to put out a debut LP only this year through Transcending Obscurity Records. That's literally 18 years between forming and putting out your first full length. This is isn't unprecedented territory for underground black metal though. Another long-awaited release in that genre from 2021 was the first album from the Germans in Backsack, and their origins stretch back to 1992. Going back to Northam, however, it's very telling that they used those years of experience to craft a debut album worth remembering. The track list is sequenced perfectly, and the music recalls early death metal influenced opeth without the singing, or even mid-2010s Falls of Rara, especially in the lead guitar playing. With the way the album swells and undulates like the rain samples that bookends the end of it, feels like I'm caught in some sort of epic movie where the character's drowning and he's going like, help, help, can anybody help me? I need a boat. Definitely an LP to be listened to from front to back. No question about that. Definitely recommended for fans of our folky brand of American black metal spearheaded by artists like Agalach and Wolf No Throne Room and also Panopticon. All those guys. If you like that stuff, check out the Northam album. I have a big shout out to give. Just the other day, a person had followed me on Bandcamp. Who is that person? Well, it is a female-led raw black metal project. Just one person behind it, and its name is Spectral Temple, and it's from Ireland. Her demo, Impending Dawn, was released on that site independently on October 29th. And it is a very raw 3-track release that focuses on her personal struggles via intense metaphors. The style is very much in the vein of a more artsy 90s dark throne, if that makes any sense. Maybe a tad of like Birdcat or Era Albert, I have to add. In my humble opinion, there should always be more room for women and LGBTQ plus representation in black men. Also non-white people too. I see a disturbing lack of non-white people in it. That's not cool. We need all that to fight against the harmful and controversial legacy of that subgenre. And there's a lot to talk about that will fill up a whole nother video. So I'll just stop there. Once again, thank you for the follow on Bandcamp, Dr. Temple. I'll keep listening to those tunes well into the future, and if anybody has a Bandcamp page, follow me. It's Wheel-of-Mercury. No capitals. Another release from that same day was Bleed the Future by the Canadian technical death metal group Archfire. It's a 32-minute insane speed track of 300 beats per minute flat speed, starting for days of rapid-fire growls from their frontman, Ollie Peters, that are the fastest rappers on the planet. And yet, somehow, someway, they managed to make it catchy. They slow down at times, such as a clean part on Drone Corp's Aviator in the beginning of Revelry on the Onyx, but most of the time they're just blistering fast and brutal as all hell. And once again, this is all done in just 32 minutes. I operate under the belief that if you're a very fast fan like these guys and you put out an album, you better make it quick or concise, or else people will get bored of your widdly stuff pretty quickly. These guys crush. Get on to them. Moving on to November. As far as metal and hard rock went, there were only 3 records I was excited for. The first being the new CU Space Cowboy record entitled The Romance of Affliction, released on November 5th. They are a mathcore and metalcore / hardcore band from San Diego who play a throwback style harkening back to the days of Norma Jean, Poison the Whale, Attack, and Suicide Season era Bring Me the Horizon. Vocalist Connie Scarbaza is the main star of this group, and she brings a lot of sass and personality to the band's sound. At times, she legitimately makes me think of the one-time Ukrainian acting Alexandria vocalist Denis Shaporovska, better known as Dennis Stock, especially when she does that yelling thing sometimes. You know what I mean when you start listening to it. There are a lot of breakdowns and chugs and emo tunes, singing choruses, and that's a lot of the basic elements of the late 2000s and early 2010s Warped Tour chorus scene that I grew up loving as a teenager. That means I love this record. I absolutely adore it. If you love wild raging vocals and guitar tablature full of zeros and ones, you're gonna love this record. I promise you. Check this out. The next heavy slash hard release that I loved in November was Slave to the Scalper, the debut album from Ohioan death metal band 200 Stab Wounds. It came out on November 12th, and it is a heavy record. It doesn't reinvent the genre of death metal or anything, but it doesn't really need to because they do that old school death metal sound very well. They actually have this really terrifying sample from old horror movies in their tracks. In fact, there's one that sounds like a man that's choking to death. I don't know what movie that's from, as I'm not a horror buff at all, but it's creepy as hell. It's creepy. It gives me the creep. Also, on the second track, there was a riff that sounds like a sludgier, slightly slowed down version of a riff from Slipknot, the Blistered This. That's actually not a stretch. I can actually clearly hear that. Slipknot is actually more death metal influenced than people realize. Probably not 100%, but it's actually there if you listen closely. Anyways, going back to 200 Stab Wounds, this is a fun record. If you like stuff like early Chris Barnes era Cannibal Corpse, Exhumed, and Mortician, you're going to love this. The last hard rock and heavy metal release I was looking forward to in November was the fourth album by the Swedish melodic metalcore band Imminent called Heaven in Hiding, released on November 26th. This band, after jumping on a couple of trends for their first two LPs, have finally found their niche with 2019's Turn the Light On, when lead vocalist Eddie Berg took up violin and started adding it to their sound, which I can pretty much sum up as a mixture between Bad Omens and Artery. How did they do with this fourth release and the second with the violin? Well, I might have been overhyped for this a tad, because this LP wasn't too special for me. It's not terrible, but it probably isn't going to be one of my top albums of the year, unfortunately. The songs are mostly pretty standard, basic 2010s emo tinged metalcore, which can work sometimes with me if they are performed convincingly, but all the lyrics revolve around depression and anxiety, and while those topics are great to admit and great to talk about, there have been thousands of bands that have talked about the same thing, and a lot of those bands talk about it in a more frank honesty than these guys do. Granted, I'm not knocking them. It honestly sucks that I'm coming to these conclusions here, because I really wanted to like this album more. Not always last, however. Chasing Shadows has a great hook, and probably is one of my favorite songs of the year. Lost and Left Behind have good dynamics, and the Persian name track and violin interlude are so beautiful that I don't understand how they could exist on the same album as some of these generic tracks. It's still objectively a good record, but I'm just sort of tired of this whole wave of Linkin Park architect junk core that the scene is currently pretty obsessed with. Maybe I'm getting old, because I've been listening to metalcore since I was 13 years old, and it's certainly changed. If you by chance happen to be a young metalcore fan who happened to miss the rise of Architect back in the early 2010s, want to hear something similar to Holy Hell or All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us, just ignore my constructive criticisms of this LP and have fun with it. For the rest of us who have heard this exact same sound before, I'm sorry, but it's not really something to be excited about. But believe it or not, as notable to me as those releases were, there weren't even the frontrunners in November. No, that distinction goes to two releases that are totally outside of the realm of hard and heavy and or underground music. A Night with Silk Sonic by Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak's autonomous group, and 30 by Adele. The Silk Sonic record released on November 12th, is Bruno and Anderson's love letter to the soul music era of the late 1960s and the early 1970s. Think of all those Motown and Stax Records artists like The Temptations, Otis Redding, Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, and so on and so forth. With the help of legendary bassist Bruce B. Collins from Parliament Funkadelic, and former one-time suicidal tendencies bassist Thundercat, they together create an all-star team of musicians that kill it across a scant 31 minutes of runtime. Lead single Leave the Door Open is an immaculately produced tune that is already up there with the great. 777 is a funky upbeat number driven by Anderson's lively drumming. And Skate is a Kanye-infused singer that promises to become a mainstay at every NHL hockey arena in the future. Mark my words. There's also Blast Off with the incredible key change at the end of Smoking Out the Window and at the Braggadocio. This is an incredible R&B, soul, and funk record that is destined to be a classic someday and to get a new generation into this classic sound. Highly recommended. However, the biggest release of that month for me is the return of one, the only, Adele. As one of my all-time favorite artists, Adele first captivated me as a teenager back in 2011 when I heard Rolling in the Deep for the first time on the radio. It sounded so different from anything else on there that I immediately thought, oh, I need to check out this girl's stuff more. For a while, she was actually the only artist I loved who wasn't some form of metal or rock music. I tried hearing Hello in 2015, and I actually got to see her at the Air Canada Centre in 2016 when she toured in support of 25, now known as the Scotiabank Arena. Fast forward 6 years later, and a lot had changed. A pandemic happened, she had a divorce from Simon Konecki, and lost weight. But what hasn't changed, thankfully, is her signature voice. It was flowing in space on the lead single Easy on Me released in October, and was soaring to new heights on a raw demo of To Be Loved that was posted onto Twitter 2 days before the release date, sung sitting on a couch, no less. So, I guess the million-dollar question is, how is 30? It's a bit of a journey. This is her divorce album, written after her split with Simon Konecki in 2019. And it is, in my opinion, the best she's sounded vocally. There are some stellar tracks on here. Easy on Me is an early highlight, as well as the 6-minute My Little Love, which features voice notes from her telling her 9-year-old son Angelo about her divorce. That one was a very, very tough song to listen to for me, because me and my twin brother were also children of divorced parents, and Angelo's questions to Adele heavily reminded me of some of the questions we would ask our parents back when they separated. I guess that's the power of great music, right? Other highlights are the peppy Amy Winehouse-inspired Cry Your Heart Out, Hold On, and especially To Be Loved, a ballad with Canadian songwriter Tobias Jesso Jr. on piano, which is probably her best vocal performances to date. Her voice on the studio version of the track hit a new stratosphere on that song that gives me chills, and will probably be remembered by many music fans long after its initial release date. That is not to say that this is a perfect record, however. There are some production hiccups on it, most notably on the opener Strangers by Nature, where at the 43rd second mark, a strange cutoff of Ludwig Göransson's strings can be heard. It almost feels like somebody forgot to edit the strings properly, which is weird for a big album like that. Also, the song Late Night Parkin' with Ella Garner sees Adele singing over this instrumental that reminds me of, ever see those playlists on YouTube where it's like the Simpsons characters, but it's like low-fi beat playlists, those type of videos. Kind of funny, actually. I swear that I heard the same vocal melody from My Little Love being used later in Woman Like Me. It could be just me though. All in all, it's still a good record, but it has flaws, and it's a great addition to Miss Adele Blue Adkins' discography. Will it be my album of the year? Probably not, but I still love you as a fan, Adele. Cheers. Well, that's all I've got for the fall of 2021. What was your favorite hard rock and metal releases or any music genre releases of the autumn season? Leave a comment down below. I've actually got an idea for one more video to close out the year that will be about the concerts I will / might be attending in Toronto in the winter and early spring of 2022. As for upcoming albums during that time frame, I'm looking forward to some new So Hideous record, None But a Pure Heart Can Sing, coming out on December 3rd, an early album of the year contender, and Wordland's Epigon, out on January 7th. The new self-titled LP from Zeal and Artery, released in February 11th, and the third album from Bad Omens, called The Death of Peace of Mind, coming out on February 25th. It's going to be a busy spring, and I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. Rock on, guys. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.